based on the research that we have been seeing, so hybrid office is coming up. That is our finding at SYNERGIZE 2021 virtual annual Bimser International Conference and Summit. So based on these findings, how we can help companies digitize and automate their business processes during working remotely from different locations. So that's what we are focusing on. And today we also talk about SYNERGIZE CSP, our new true cloud enterprise content services platform designed to run and automate business processes in a digital environment, truly on cloud. Also earlier today, we had expert hour sessions, and we learned about how to manage risk and how to mitigate risk from operational point of view, from legal point of view. We had great panelists with us. And also we talked about ISO 9001 compliance in manufacturing and other industries. And we talked about fundamentals of business process improvement with Ron Loveland. So both sessions, ISO 9001 session with Alex Kvatrov, also fundamentals of business process improvement with Ron Loveland. Actually, they were all very educational and informative. So we combined these sessions with QDMS demonstration for quality management, as well as Ensemble Software's demonstration in terms of business process improvement and business process modeling. Now we are in our session for the introductions to eBA Enterprise Content Management Platform. And we have an integrated session followed by cannabis industry. Again, these both of them are partner hour sessions, and I'll introduce our partner in a minute. And we'll also talk about introductions to ERP cannabis powered by eBA platform. And we'll talk about cannabis industry, how you can actually comply compliance requirements, state and regulatory compliance requirements on eBA platform. And the application is called ERP cannabis. We'll talk about it in a minute. And how you can digitize your business processes. So for this, we also have a panel that we put together. We have with us Joel Halverson from Quintel Management Consulting with us. Quintel is our channel partner, and we've been working for a long time. And also in the session, we'll also talk about eBA's capabilities as well as ERP cannabis. Let me introduce our presenter before we get started. So Quintel Management is based in Denver, Colorado, and they've been Bimser International channel partner for a very long time. And one of their expertise is actually eBA Enterprise Content Management Platform, proprietary software system of Bimser International. And Quintel has a lot of experience, hands-on experience on eBA. And they also developed an application called ERP Cannabis, dedicated specifically for cannabis industry. Today, we'll learn from Joe. So he's been using eBA for a long time. He's been developing applications on eBA for a long time. And we'll learn from Joe as to how to use eBA, why it is important for organizations to digitize and automate their business processes on eBA. And some also example business processes developed on eBA that you'll have a chance to see and learn from Joel at this session. In terms of time frame, we've been managing time pretty good so far in the morning, and I'm confident we'll be also okay in terms of time frame in the afternoon as well. So we'll have enough time to learn from Joel as for eBA's capabilities, also ERP cannabis as to how you can digitize and automate your business processes in cannabis industry while you are working remotely, while you are working on site or hybrid office, as we see the future of remote work. Joel, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, Kevin.
Okay, great. So yes, I'd like to invite you to our virtual stage, and floor is yours. Let me stop sharing my screen. So you'll have a chance to share your screen. Looks like it's coming up. Okay, we can see your screen. Great. All right, looks good. Also, time-wise, we have enough time. We are managing. We have been managing time wisely. We are good. So no rush. Please take your time and show us, your take in terms of eBA, your experience in eBA. Joel, we know you have years of experience on eBA with Team Intel. So we are looking forward to learning from you, hearing from you as to your insights. And I introduce Intel, but if you like to add anything else to introduce yourself and Intel, please feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello, everyone. I'll be going through the introduction to eBA in this session. As Kevin had pointed out, I'm with Intel Management Consulting, and we are a woman-owned business that is based in Denver, Colorado. Excuse me. And we have completed nearly 50 SAP ERP and CRM implementations. That's been a primary focus of our work that we have done over the nearly 20 years that Intel has been in business. And we have several ongoing consulting and support contracts in the area of SAP primarily. And we focus on business management and process improvement, utilizing technology as an enabling tool, which really led to our use of the eBA platform and the ability of that platform to support process improvement and the flexibility that comes along with the eBA platform to be able to accommodate any type of issue that we may need to address, and also the ability to integrate with the SAP platform, being that eBA is a certified SAP partner and has the required certification for that, which makes it easy to set that up and have that integration ongoing. Not that, of course, integration is necessary with SAP or any of the other ERP platforms, but certainly that's a strength of eBA that we found in the work that we have done since 2016, when we first started working with Bimser International and became one of their partners in the United States. So in terms of eBA, the modules that we have primarily focused on include workflow management, so being able to easily create forms using drag and drop technology. And there's also some programming that can go into that as well to enhance or otherwise customize forms. Being able to handle any type of documents for notifications and approvals that may be needed, and basically being able to utilize that framework to support reporting features as well, so that as we are creating information, utilizing the forms, we're able to easily then summarize it and report what has been happening within the organization as well. The other aspect that we have utilized and found most useful is the document management features, document and/or record management features, so that utilizing eBA, we are able to meet any of the standard requirements that might be needed, and also being able to quickly search and find documents that may be needed, and the integration, of course, to the workflow management system, and ultimately being able to rely on digital as opposed to paper copies of documents that may be needed within an organization. So utilizing those capabilities, of course, it's very flexible and able to be used for any of the types of business processes that may be implemented within an organization. So HR, purchasing, sales and marketing, financial, logistics, customer relations, production and planning, project management, and any other type of process. It's really a primary advantage of the eBA platform is the flexibility that it provides, and basically the quick turnaround that you can have with implementing the eBA platform in support of these departments and the processes within each of them. And you'll see that when I get to the demonstration portion of this session after I go through this overview. So the user interface is a graphical user interface, and of course is very useful when being able to access on a remote basis and having all of the users on the same platform, and of course being dispersed and in different physical locations, it's easy to access through the web user interface any of the information that an individual user may have permission to access. So the user menu is very friendly, and you're able to easily walk through the menu and utilize the features. You can see that it's separated into different types of components, from the dashboard to records management to document management to workflow management to the actual applications that are being utilized within the organization. And from a document management perspective, being able to access all of the documents that have been utilized as part of the support of the individual business processes, so that, again, with the ability to organize based upon the different types of documents, based upon the different uses of the documents, based upon whatever criteria you may have, you're able to organize all of your documents appropriately within the document tree on the eBA platform, so that it's available and utilized appropriately. And if you are looking at retention schedules and the ability to remove documents after a certain point of time, the records management feature provides that capability, so it can be automatically managed and all of your documents kept up to date with all of those that are required for whatever reason to be accessible. And then from a security perspective, as I mentioned previously, we have the ability to set up security and individual access in a number of different ways, which again makes it very useful in terms of being able to assign access by individual users, by departments, by different types of roles that may be applicable. So within each of those different types of settings, you can specify whether users that would be where that setting would apply would have access to full control versus a view-only mode versus the ability to edit and modify, create. So the flexibility of being able to set this up allows us to be able to assign the appropriate information to individual users and be able to manage that security very efficiently on the eBA platform. And then being able to check documents in and out, so that as a document is being modified by one user, it is locked and not available for other users to access. So this would apply to documents as well as the actual forms that may be utilized as part of the process that's being supported. And again, I'll show an example of that. And then also being able to set up relations, so that being able to transfer documents that may be created, for example, within one process or form, and being able to utilize that in another process or another form, and being able to easily share that information across the different processes or across the organization based upon what the specific requirements might be for an organization. So now I'll go ahead and demonstrate basically a couple of different types of forms that we have set up. So go on the platform, and we'll start out by looking at the dashboard. So this is a typical setup so that we have information about the user. We have, in this case, approvals that have been submitted. We have recent activities that can be accessed, and we have the last visited documents to be used. So there's a lot of flexibility, again, in terms of how an individual user would set up their dashboard, which of course can be managed based upon by utilizing the edit type of feature, or then adding or otherwise changing what it is that an individual user would see when they log into the eBA platform. And then as we go through, you can see that there's different types of information based upon the modules that are being utilized. So records management, document management, workflow management, and the actual applications. You can manage the organization, which basically means the users that are assigned to the eBA platform and the access that they may be assigned either on an individual user basis or on a department level, but being able to access those parameters for individual users through the organizational setup within the eBA platform. So I'm going to start out by going directly to the applications. The applications are the primary way that the eBA platform supports individual business processes across an organization. So I'm logged in, as you can see, as myself, and I have access to basically everything that has been set up on our eBA platform, and you can see that there's a number of forms and they've been organized appropriately depending upon the categorization or the business processes that might be utilized as part of the platform setup. And so the first type of form that I'm going to show is a Sku request. So within inventory management, being able to request, for example, a new Sku or stock keeping unit for a product that may be produced or sold as part of an organization. I'll click on that particular form and it'll take me directly into it. So you can see that this form has been set up in a pretty simple way so that we can specify, for example, the company. If there are one or more companies that may be part of the organization that's being supported, we can have the option to select from the appropriate company or basically legal entity for the organization. And then the same thing with facilities. So just simple drop-down lists that are easily set up depending upon what the individual requirements might be for the organization. You can see we also have the ability to create attachments. So again, getting to the document management capability, being able to select an attachment from the local computer, for example, by using the browsing functionality, or being able to scan documents directly into the eBA platform, depending upon how that might be set up for the individual user, and then being able to actually attach that information at this point. So if I were to browse and go ahead and select a document to attach, I can do it at this point, go to create, and that document then is attached to this form. And additional documents can be attached at this point. And then in terms of the actual request that may be generated, well, the other thing that I'll point out is the ability to manage attachments that may be on a form. So you do have the ability to remove attachments as well that may have been set up. I'm going to then access a Sku request, and we'll just have a lollipop related Sku, lolly 3530, and this will be a new Sku. And again, the description can be as whatever might be needed for being able to track information related to an individual Sku. I'm going to relay that Sku then to a material that we have in the ERP system that is attached to the to this particular form. So again, having that integration with other systems, such as an ERP system or any other type of external system, is possible. And certainly one of the benefits of the eBA platform is being able to handle those integrations in a very straightforward way. And then once we have this list, again, that's being pulled from our ERP backend, I can easily search and find the appropriate material that I'm looking for to be able to relate this Sku lolly 3530 to the material in the ERP system. So we can also specify whether there is a recipe that's required. And if there is, we can go ahead and select that recipe being basically what's needed to be able to produce this type of a product. And then we can also add in comments. So we're going to add a new Sku for a 30 count package of the lollipops. Go ahead and add that. So you can see that you have the ability to add other requests to this table as well. And in order to do that, you would simply click on the add button and insert as many of the Sku requests that are needed at this particular point in time. And once that's done, you can go ahead and send. So when you click send, that basically will submit this particular form to the workflow that has been attached to the form, which we can see on the next tab. So if we go to the flow tab, it gives us the workflow process number associated with this document, and it gives information about when the form was created and by who, and then we have the complete history. So through the workflow functionality on the eBA platform, you're able to provide auditing details for work that's being done within your organization in terms of who created what and approved what or changed different information depending upon the content of the form at the appropriate time. You also have the ability to add messages so that as documents or forms are being submitted and shared across the organization, messages can be attached to it if there are questions or issues or other information that's important. Being able to keep all of that information in one location or associated with one form is, of course, important and of utilizing this platform for that information. So if I go back to the document, you can see that I can click the send button, and I will do that. But also you have the ability to cancel, and the cancel feature would basically delete or remove this particular document. It would no longer be accessible. We're also able to print, add notes, save changes. If I want to save a document, for example, and come back to it later, I can go ahead and click on Save Changes, and then the document is there for when I might need it. And then when I'm ready to come back to it, I can access the document, click on Edit, and then additional changes can be made. So I'm going to go ahead and click Send, and that will send the document to the appropriate approver. So you can see that there's a message that the workflow is waiting for an approval, and this has been sent to me as part of the demo setup. So if we go to the flow, you can see that the diagram, the graphic, shows that the document has been created, a notification has been sent. So in this case, that notification is an email notification. It can be sent to any designated user on the eBA platform so that they know, for example, that a Sku request has been submitted, but the next step would be for the appropriate manager to approve that request. So both the individuals or the users that are listed on the notification object would receive an email that would have the information, and they would be able to select or review the document directly. And also the approver would receive a similar email so that that user would know that there's a document that has been submitted that requires the manager's review and approval or rejection. So you can see that all of that is documented and timestamped up above in terms of the flow history. And if I go to look at the email, you can see, for example, that this would be an example of a notification that would be sent that indicates that a Sku request form has been submitted for your review and approval. So as the information is being processed, the emails are being reviewed, and the appropriate people notified that a form has been submitted and that now requires approval. So as the approver, I can go in and review the form and then decide to either approve or reject. So if I approve, basically the form will be submitted, no other changes can be made to the form, or I can reject it. If I click on reject, which I just did, it'll come up and request a reason for that rejection, and then the actual notification will be sent back. The form basically will be sent back to the user that created the form so that they can then address whatever this rejection reason might be and then resubmit it. So as you can see through that process, and I'll go ahead and approve it. So you can see that through that process, there is a lot of flexibility to expand and utilize this type of workflow functionality combined with the form and document management capabilities to support any type of business process that might be needed within an organization. So this being just a simple Sku request form, and it's been submitted. You can see that it's no longer available to be edited. And basically this then becomes a final form. And if there was the attachment to it, the attachment would be automatically saved within the document management system. So you can see, for example, that if I click on document management and we go through and look at all of the different types of forms or processes that are being supported, each one of them has a folder that would then have the appropriate information within it. So you can see In this case, we do have a document in the Sku folder that has a create date on it and what the actual information was, and you can then access the document from here within the document management features of the eBA platform. The other thing to point out is that once documents are submitted, you can access them through the workflow management folder. So for example, if there are documents that I've sent previously and I want to go in and look at what I may have submitted previously, I can go to the sent items folder. And from here, I can access any of the documents that have been submitted. So I just accessed this Sku request form for the new Lollipop Sku that I just created. And it'll provide me with all of the details. Or if I wanted to look and see where the document might be hung up, I could access this flow history. And if there was an approver that was holding onto the document and I needed it approved, I could, of course, contact that person and find out what the situation might be with that particular approval. So we have the ability to review sent items. We have the ability to review notifications that may have been sent. So you can see for all of these different types of processes, we have the ability to review all of those notifications. So I will receive the email notification, such as this, and I can access it basically through that email notification, or I can go directly into the eBA platform and click on the notifications tab to be able to access the same documents. Or I can also access any document that may be required for approval through the approvals folder. So in that way, you're able to easily manage and refer back to documents that may have been submitted and get the appropriate information that you might be looking for. So between the workflow management and the document management functionality, you're able to access that information. So with that, I will show a different type of form. That Sku request form is a simple form that can be set up and utilized for document management, workflow management, processing a simple Sku request. But I'm also then going to go into the, let's see, I'm going to submit an internal test request. So we have the Sku request, and now this is a little bit more complex and has a few additional features. The same type of setup, the same look and feel is available. The Sku request versus the internal test request form. You can see that we have the ability to add documents for this test request. I can specify that who's the name of the person that has submitted the form and assign the appropriate priority for the test that needs to be completed. This would be testing of a product, for example. And I can specify the date it's submitted and the date that I require that the testing be complete. So again, through the date and time fields, we're able to utilize the drop-down and select the appropriate dates that need to be associated with this. And then I can go ahead, in this particular case, it's set up so that the sample ID is automatically generated when the user who's completing the test request form clicks on this add button. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. It'll come back and assign a unique number. So this has been set up so that any of the test requests that are submitted are always assigned the appropriate unique identifier. So you don't have the possibility within the organization of having multiple sample IDs submitted that have the same number, because of course that's not something that would be permitted and would cause a lot of confusion. So you can see that I clicked the add button 3 times. You can also see that there's plenty of room on this form to be able to add more detailed instructions so that whoever may be utilizing this type of a form would know exactly what they would need to do. Of course, we have extensive training and documentation that we would normally provide as part of the form development and implementation process. But then in this particular case, after I've identified that there are 3 samples to be submitted as part of this test request, instead of adding the information in manually, which could be done through these fields, I'm going to import the test results from a file. So once I have the files all set up, I can go ahead and complete the information on a spreadsheet, which in this particular case is the required process, so that the individuals who are in the lab and completing the testing of the samples would complete their information on their standard spreadsheet. So from a form perspective, I'm going to access that spreadsheet, and then once I have the spreadsheet assigned to the form, I can go ahead and import the information from this spreadsheet directly into the table down below when I click on the import button. So based upon the information in the spreadsheet, I've now populated this table with the actual testing results. If I want to review and make changes or whatever the case might be to those testing results, I can go ahead and click on a row in the table. And you can see now that once I've clicked on that row in the table, that the information from the row is populated up above, and I can specify or make changes to any of those inputs and then have the information updated down below. So for example, if I change this to a 0.02 and I put in a target percentage of 100%, and then I click on the add button, it'll go ahead and update the information for that particular sample in the table that's been provided. So again, it's a very efficient way of sharing information within the organization. Part of the organization is utilizing a traditional spreadsheet format, but through the use of the eBA platform, we're able to then take that information that's in a spreadsheet format and essentially put it into the appropriate workflow and document management framework and functionality that's provided through the eBA platform. So again, with this, I can make the appropriate changes, save the document and come back to it later if that's necessary. I can also send the document and it'll be submitted to the workflow. In this particular case, the workflow is a little bit more complex in that the form will be submitted for approval and will basically be available for editing until the approver specifies that the testing process for those samples has been completed. So once the testing has been completed, then the notification will be sent to the appropriate individual to notify them that the test has been completed. And of course, the test results can then be accessed by that individual user. So that's all managed basically through this process of now selecting a completed. If the testing has been completed, I can select the complete button, or as we saw previously, it can be rejected for whatever reason. But once I submit complete, it'll go ahead and complete the process. But then it comes back because in this case, it's not, we haven't submitted information regarding the completed by. So again, another feature demonstrating the flexibility that unless it's been signed off by the appropriate person who may have completed the testing, it's actually not going to allow us to complete it until it's been signed off. So I can put in the date, which is today. I can specify the individual that completed the testing, go ahead and submit complete again. It'll come back now with the document being done, and there's no more editing that's possible. The document's been completed, and we've added the actual tracking down below to show the document number and the date timestamp associated with it as well directly on the document. So again, to allow just greater traceability and auditability of the test request form. So that really shows the type of functionality that's possible with the eBA platform. Hopefully those two examples will give you a good idea of what's possible, and also to really show the flexibility associated with the ability to create forms and manage the workflow and documents associated with individual business processes. So at this point, Kevin, I will just open it up for any questions that may have been submitted.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Joe. Much appreciated. Let me take over the screen, and we'll have our Q&A session together.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Very informative presentation and demonstration, Joe. Thank you. Thank you very much. We know that you have years of experience on eBA, hands-on experience on eBA. So the content that you share, the information that you share is actually precious, very important, and very informative for all of us, especially for our attendees, as we are sure of it. So much appreciated. Some of the questions, for example, that we receive is, how long does it take to put together a form on eBA comparison to, say, writing a code?
Well, I would say, anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of weeks, just depending upon what the requirements are and, the experience of the individual developing the form. But certainly one of the things that takes the most time is just understanding what the actual requirement is, including all of the information that may need to be included on the form. The actual development of the form is standard in terms of how all of the pieces work together, and the time that it takes to meet the specific requirements for an organization are primarily dependent upon the identification of the information to be included with the form and how the workflow is to be supported as part of the form development as well.
Thank you, Joe. Another question that we receive is about mobile applications. So when you like to use those forms that you show on mobile application of eBA, do you need to design anything separately, or what you design as you showed us is enough to use on mobile application as well?
Yeah, the mobile functionality within the workflow is especially convenient because you would be able to review and approve the forms that have been submitted for an individual user. So being able to receive the notification on your mobile device that a form has been submitted, being able to review the form on your mobile device and look at what may be relevant for making a decision regarding approval or rejection, and then actually being able to approve or reject it from your mobile device is a very, very convenient option of the eBA platform.
I appreciate it. Let me see my list. I am also looking at the YouTube channel as well as if we have any questions at the same time. So let's see if we have anything. Yeah, looks like we addressed the question. So there is a question about document management about the permission levels, but I believe you already addressed it in the earlier in your presentation. So there are many different ways to offer permissions as to how to run it and design it as to who can access what type of information on the session on the eBA session.
I would just emphasize that the security or the permission functionality for the forms is very flexible and easy to use, and has been very beneficial for the clients that we've worked with to have that set up in the way that it is. So.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Much appreciated. Also, you mentioned about departments that we can use eBA, human resources, purchasing, and so on, for example. In terms of industries, can you also share some ideas as to what other industries eBA can be used?
Well, our experience is primarily in the utility, energy, public sector, and cannabis industries. And certainly for those industries, the eBA platform is something that can be very useful for any of those organizations that are in those value chains for those industries. So I really don't know that there would be an industry that would not benefit from this type of functionality and being able to manage workflow associated with business processes across the entire organization in a very efficient way.
Thank you, Joel. Much appreciated. Is there anything else that you'd like to share at the moment with us during this Q&A session before we jump to ERP Cannabis?
Well, I would just encourage the attendees to look into the use of the eBA platform for their particular situations and start out with, a real issue that may be a high priority for their organization, and talk to us about how you might be able to utilize the eBA platform to address that issue. But starting out with something that would be high impact and low complexity, of course, would be ideal in terms of getting familiar with the eBA platform and how it could really benefit your organization.
Thank you, Joe. So shall we get started with ERP Cannabis? What do you think? Or you want to give 5 minutes break? In terms of time, minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
If we could do a 5-minute break, that'd be good, and then we can
get started. That sounds good. Yeah, time-wise, we are doing pretty good. We are managing time very well, and okay. Yeah, let's have a 5 minutes break, and then we'll continue. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mm-hmm.